Why don't we have anti-dictatorship films on the big cinema screen, but not on the small television screen? When the world knows and our people know even better that for 46 years we have been through a dictatorial system that is one of the harshest and fanatical in Europe and the Balkans. It is scandalous and a very significant indicator that in 32 years of democracy about 3 films were made they claim to deal with this topic. We say they claim to deal with this topic, but in fact they ignore the essence, which was extrajudicial killing in most cases. Or in farcical trials where the decision was taken from above and the people of the law played like cats and dogs rat with the next victim. In a wild system that did not want to know about human rights when it judged that they were enemies of communism. In a system where torture was applied when the penal code of the RPSH did not allow such a thing. The convicts spent long periods of time in solitary confinement without following any rules. They were in the hands of a criminal investigator who thought that the more he tortured the enemies of the so-called dictatorship of the proletariat, the more he wanted. Showed that he was loyal to the party. In cinema during the years of socialist construction, we often watched films with themes from the National Liberation War. There were no shortage of scenes where Italian fascists or German Nazis tortured partisans, communists or simply anti-fascists. Why are these scenes missing in today's Albanian films, where the Albanian tortured the Albanian for the simple fact that he thought differently from him or believed in a different ideology than the Marxist-Leninist one borrowed from the Soviets? Someone can ask more correctly, why are there no genuine anti-dictatorship films? Films are made because the creators are afraid. When in our days there is talk of freedom of the media and we have approved many drafts of the European Union on freedoms and human and social rights. Or is it just a propaganda facade to be fair to Europe, where we have been hoping to join for 32 years? A few years ago, Professor Servet Pelembay, President of the Parliament, in democracy made public the decisions and conclusions drawn by President Ramiz Alia from the Katowice meeting in the presence of Soviet leader Gorbachev. The essence of these conclusions was that although the socialist system had apparently fallen, it had to be maintained in any way economic power, because whoever has economic power sooner or later also has political power, and in fact this is what happened. The communists appointed by Ramiz Alia took over the direction and the reins of the great popular hatred and managed it with great talent. They allowed themselves that all the pressure of hatred was poured on the bronze bust of Enver Hoxha, while the privileged communists, the most loyal ones, were converted with the money of the PPSKC into businessmen. The Soviet hoods of the dictatorship were replaced by the white coats of democracy, a perfect facade of President Alia. Former party secretaries took the leadership of democratic parties and created with the blessing of Alice the pluralism that over the years would be reduced to 3 parties, which in fact is one. Other party secretaries have tightly caught the important institutions of the country in the mass media, becoming heads of departments. This is why anti-dictatorship films are not made, although for the use of the public, especially foreigners, bunkers, offices or torture chambers like the one of the Leaves have been made available. Anti-dictatorship films are not made due to the fact that the dictatorship of communism has not been condemned by any parliamentary decision and not even Enver Hoxha himself. This paranoid dictator who, in addition to the genocide he did to the people with the class war in the people, disappeared all his comrades in the war whom he had by his side. In power for nearly 46 years of despotic power. Meanwhile, in the countries with the same dictatorial problems, many films were made against Hitler by the German creators themselves. The Italian anti-diktature creators also made dozens of films against the mistakes and faults of Stalin. Although the latter was a central and very important figure against Hitlerism, which he was able to forgive and with the help of the Americans and the British. He has not been spared from criticism and the big screen.